You are not what the world makes of you. You are what you decide to make of yourself. Every person who has ever walked this earth has faced one undeniable truth. The world will always try to define you. From the moment you are born, labels are placed on your shoulders like invisible chains. You are told who you are, what you can do, and what limits you must live within. People will measure you by your appearance, your background, your education, your wealth, your failures, and your mistakes. They will create an image of you that fits their understanding, not your potential. But within every human being, there exists a silent power, the power to choose. It's not loud or dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It's quiet, like a whisper in the soul that says, "This is not who I have to be." That whisper is the beginning of transformation. It's the seed of freedom. Because no matter how strong the world's opinions may seem, no matter how heavy the expectations pressing down on you, the final word, the ultimate direction of your life, will always come from your choices. Choice is the bridge between who you are and who you can become. It is the one thing that no one can ever truly take from you, even when everything else is stripped away. Your comfort, your reputation, your support. You still have the power to choose your attitude, your response, your next move. History is filled with people who had nothing left except their inner choice. And that was enough to change everything. Think about it, two people can face the exact same storm, but one emerges broken while the other emerges reborn. The difference isn't luck. It isn't fate. It's choice. One person decides to surrender, and the other decides to stand. One sees defeat, the other sees opportunity. The power of inner choice transforms pain into strength and obstacles into fuel. The world around you is a reflection of billions of external forces. Culture, economy, politics, expectations. But the world within you is the only one you can truly govern. That's where your real strength lies. You can't control how people treat you, but you can choose how you treat yourself. You can't decide what happens to you, but you can decide what happens within you. You can choose whether a failure defines you or refines you. You can choose whether pain breaks you or builds you. Every choice, no matter how small, shapes the structure of your soul. The way you speak to yourself, the way you see challenges, the way you rise after falling. These are not coincidences. They are conscious acts of creation. You are sculpting yourself every day with the chisel of decision. Some choices are subtle. To forgive, to stay calm, to keep believing. But they hold the power to change the entire direction of your life. The world often teaches you to react, to respond automatically to pain, criticism, and fear. But reaction is surrender. When you react without awareness, you become a product of the world's noise. You start living on autopilot, repeating the same patterns, making the same mistakes, feeling trapped by the same emotions. But when you pause, breathe, and choose, that's when you reclaim control. That's when you begin to shape your own destiny, instead of letting the world write it for you. Your inner choice is not just about positive thinking. It's about conscious creation. It's the decision to look at your weaknesses and not run from them. It's the courage to face your darkness and still walk toward the light. It's saying, yes, I've been hurt. Yes, I've failed. But I will not let that be the end of my story. When you reach that level of awareness, you stop living as a victim of your past and start becoming the architect of your future. Most people underestimate the magnitude of this power. They think change requires massive external shifts, new jobs, new relationships, new environments. But real change begins with an invisible act, a decision made within the mind. You can stand in the same place you've always been and still transform completely by choosing differently. The environment does not create transformation, your consciousness does. There will always be people who doubt you, misunderstand you, or even try to control you. But their influence can only reach as far as your permission allows. You can choose not to internalize their opinions. You can choose not to let their limitations become your own. The opinions of others are temporary. Your choice is eternal. Every time you choose courage over fear, truth over comfort, growth over stagnation, you evolve. And evolution is not a single moment. It's a series of deliberate choices repeated every day. You may not see the change immediately, but deep within, your soul is expanding. Each choice strengthens your inner foundation, making you more resilient, more aware, more alive. The beauty of this truth is that it removes all excuses. If your life is built by your choices, then you always have the power to rebuild it. You are not at the mercy of fate or luck. You are not a passenger in your own story. You are the driver. And every road begins the moment you decide to move forward. Even in moments of fear and confusion, the power of choice remains your greatest weapon. It's what allows you to turn pain into wisdom and loss into renewal. When you realize that your inner world determines your outer experience, everything changes. You stop chasing validation and start creating meaning. You stop waiting for permission and start acting with purpose. Choice is not about denying pain or pretending life is easy. It's about owning your power to rise in spite of it. The fire of adversity can destroy you or forge you. And the deciding factor will always be your inner choice. You may not always have control over your circumstances, but you always have control over your direction. And in that truth lies the essence of freedom. Because once you understand that your power does not depend on what happens around you, but on what happens within you, the world loses its power to define you. You stop being what the world makes of you, and you start becoming what you choose to be. There are parts of you that you show to the world. The confident smile, the kind words, the controlled emotions, the polite mask that says, "I'm fine." But beneath that surface lies something deeper, something raw, something real. The shadow. It's the collection of everything you hide, deny, or reject within yourself. It's the anger you suppress, the jealousy you pretend you don't feel, the fears you silence, the guilt you bury, and the pain you refuse to look at. It's the side of you that makes you uncomfortable, the voice you keep locked away because it doesn't fit the image you want to project. But the truth is this: the parts of you that you avoid are the same parts that hold the key to your growth. Every wound, every insecurity, every unspoken emotion is not your enemy. It's your mirror. The shadow is not evil. It's simply the truth you haven't yet learned to accept. And until you face it, it will continue to control you from the dark. When you deny your shadow, it doesn't disappear. It grows stronger. It hides behind your actions, shapes your choices, and colors your relationships. The anger you don't express turns into bitterness. The fear you don't confront becomes paralysis. The pain you avoid transforms into patterns that repeat over and over again, leaving you wondering why life feels like a circle with no way out. You can change jobs, partners, or cities, but you can never run from yourself. Wherever you go, your shadow follows. True growth doesn't come from pretending to be good. It comes from becoming whole. And wholeness requires honesty. The kind of honesty that stings. It means looking into the mirror and saying, "Yes, this is also me." It's recognizing that you are capable of anger, envy, pride, and selfishness. And that these traits don't make you unworthy, they make you human. To face your shadow is to enter the wilderness of your own mind. It's a journey that demands courage, because you'll uncover memories you've buried, truths you've avoided, and emotions you've never allowed yourself to feel. But in that darkness, there's wisdom waiting to be found. Every shadow hides a message. Your anger might be telling you that you've tolerated too much for too long. Your jealousy might be pointing to your forgotten desires. Your sadness might be asking for attention you've refused to give yourself. The moment you begin to listen to these hidden voices instead of silencing them, transformation begins. You start to understand that the shadow isn't an obstacle to your light. It's the pathway to it. You cannot rise into strength without first descending into self-awareness. You cannot discover peace until you've made peace with the chaos within. Most people spend their lives running from their inner darkness. They distract themselves with noise, success, or business, trying to drown out what's unresolved. But what you resist persists. The emotions you suppress will always find a way to surface through anxiety, anger, self-sabotage, or emptiness. The more you deny them, the more power they hold. The only way to disarm the shadow is to look it in the eye. Facing your shadow is not about shame, it's about ownership. It's saying, yes, I've made mistakes. Yes, I've hurt others. Yes, I've been broken. It's taking responsibility for your darkness so that it no longer controls your light. It's understanding that every scar carries a story and every flaw carries a lesson. When you embrace those lessons, your pain becomes your teacher and your shadow becomes your ally. There's a strange paradox in human nature. The more you reject the darker parts of yourself, the more fragmented you become. But when you accept them, you integrate. You begin to feel whole, balanced, grounded. You stop chasing an image of perfection and start embracing authenticity. Because perfection is a performance. Wholeness is truth. When you face your shadow, you begin to see others differently too. You become less judgmental because you recognize your own contradictions. You understand that everyone is fighting an unseen battle. Compassion grows naturally from self-acceptance. The anger you once directed outward begins to soften into understanding. The world feels less divided because you've stopped being divided within yourself. But make no mistake, this process is not comfortable. It requires solitude, reflection, and brutal honesty. You will confront emotions that make you tremble, memories that reopen old wounds, and truths that challenge your identity. There will be moments when you question who you really are, and that's exactly where growth begins. In the questioning, in the discomfort, in the cracks where light can finally enter. The shadow isn't your downfall, it's your invitation. It invites you to stop pretending, to stop running, to stop hiding behind the masks you've worn for too long. It invites you to meet yourself, not the version that society approves of, but the real one, the one who feels deeply, dreams wildly, fears silently, and longs to be seen. You don't heal by denying your pain, you heal by feeling it fully. You don't grow by avoiding your flaws, you grow by understanding them. Every piece of you that you've labeled unacceptable is waiting for your acceptance. When you finally bring those pieces into the light, they lose their power to wound you. You begin to see that the shadow was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to complete you. And perhaps that's what true freedom really means. To no longer be afraid of yourself. To stand in front of your darkness and say, I see you, and I still choose to love you. To realize that every mistake, every fear, every part you once rejected was simply trying to teach you how to return to yourself. Facing your shadow is not an act of weakness, it's the highest form of strength. Because it takes courage to confront the truth, to feel deeply, to acknowledge the parts of yourself that you once tried to silence. But in that confrontation lies the doorway to authenticity, the birth of inner peace, and the beginning of true self-mastery. Life often appears to be a game of chance, a sequence of unpredictable events, coincidences, and accidents that shape who we become. Some are born into privilege, others into hardship. Some rise easily, while others struggle through storms. It's easy to believe that destiny is written somewhere beyond our reach, controlled by forces we cannot see or influence. But the truth is more profound. Destiny is not an accident waiting to happen. It is a path that unfolds according to the consciousness you bring to it. It's not luck that determines the course of your life. It's awareness and direction. Circumstances are the conditions of your environment, but purpose is the compass within your soul. You may not control the wind, but you control the way you set your sails. You may not choose where the storm strikes, but you can decide how you will face it. Purpose gives meaning to every difficulty, and direction gives power to every step. Without them, even the strongest person drifts, lost in the currents of chance. With them, even the weakest person finds strength to rise above chaos. Your circumstances may define your starting point, but they do not determine your destination. Too often, people surrender to their conditions, saying, "This is just how my life is," as if they are prisoners of fate. But destiny does not belong to those who surrender. It belongs to those who stay conscious in the face of uncertainty. Awareness is the ability to look beyond what is happening and recognize why it's happening, to see meaning even in struggle. The moment you awaken to that awareness, your circumstances lose their power to limit you. The mind has an extraordinary ability to shape reality. When you believe that life happens to you, you live passively, waiting for external change. But when you realize that life happens through you, you take responsibility for shaping it. Purpose transforms obstacles into stepping stones. It doesn't remove pain, but it gives pain a reason. It doesn't prevent failure, but it turns failure into feedback. Every experience, whether joyful or painful, becomes part of your refinement rather than your ruin. Direction is the physical expression of that inner purpose. It's not enough to know why you exist. You must decide where you are going. Many people have dreams but no direction, desires but no discipline, ambition but no alignment. Purpose without direction becomes wishful thinking. Direction without purpose becomes endless wandering. The fusion of the two, consciousness and direction, creates destiny. It's what turns ordinary lives into extraordinary legacies. Every great transformation begins with an act of awareness, a moment when you realize that you are not powerless. Even in the harshest conditions, your consciousness remains free. You can lose wealth, health, relationships, or stability, but your ability to choose meaning remains untouched. This awareness is the birthplace of purpose. It allows you to rise above the illusion that life is random and recognize that every challenge is a call to awaken your inner strength. Circumstances are temporary, consciousness is eternal. You can live in the same environment as someone else and experience life completely differently based on the quality of your awareness. One person sees limitation, another sees opportunity. One person breaks under pressure, another is forged by it. What makes the difference is not the event itself, but the level of consciousness through which it is experienced. When your awareness deepens, your circumstances lose their control over your emotions and decisions. Purpose brings clarity to chaos. It acts as an internal compass that always points toward growth, even when everything around you seems uncertain. It whispers, "There's meaning here. Look deeper." And when you listen, you begin to find order in the disorder, beauty in the struggle, and strength in the suffering. Purpose doesn't erase the storms of life, but it teaches you how to navigate them with grace. It keeps you focused when distractions pull at you and grounded when fear tries to shake you. The people who seem to move through life with unshakable confidence are not those who have perfect circumstances. They are those who have a strong sense of direction. They wake up each day with intention. They understand that purpose gives power to even the smallest actions. When you act from purpose, nothing is wasted. Every failure becomes fuel. Every delay becomes preparation. Every loss becomes a lesson. Conscious direction also requires discipline. The ability to align your choices with your purpose, even when emotions or external pressures try to pull you off course. It means choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. It means saying no to distractions that do not serve your higher goal. It means walking through uncertainty with faith that the path will reveal itself as long as you keep moving forward. The more consistently you act in harmony with your purpose, the more life begins to align with your inner vision. Destiny is not found, it's created, moment by moment, choice by choice. It's not a straight path, but a living process of becoming. You evolve each time you choose awareness over ignorance, intention over impulse, and growth over stagnation. The world around you responds to that energy, because when you change your consciousness, you change your vibration. And when you change your vibration, you change your reality. Even the harshest circumstances contain hidden gifts for those who look through the lens of purpose. A closed door might be protection. A setback might be redirection. A loss might be the beginning of something greater. The difference lies in perception. And perception is shaped by consciousness. Those who live blindly blame their conditions. Those who live consciously use them. They turn pain into wisdom and uncertainty into discovery. When you understand this truth, you stop waiting for destiny to appear and start becoming the creator of it. Life is not happening by chance. It's responding to your awareness. Your thoughts, emotions, and intentions are the blueprint of your future. Every day, you're either drifting unconsciously or steering deliberately. The more conscious you become, the clearer your direction becomes. And clarity is power. It cuts through confusion, fear, and doubt like light breaking through fog. You may not always know what lies ahead, but if your purpose is clear and your direction is steady, every step becomes meaningful. The world may throw challenges your way, but consciousness transforms them into catalysts. The winds of circumstance may shift, but direction allows you to adjust your sails without losing your course. Destiny is not something waiting for you at the end of the road. It's something you build with every decision you make from a place of awareness and purpose. Every human being wears a mask, not out of deception, but out of survival. From childhood, you learn which versions of yourself are accepted and which are rejected. You're praised when you behave a certain way and criticized when you don't. So, little by little, you begin to hide pieces of yourself. You learn to smile when you're hurting, to agree when you disagree, to appear confident when you're terrified. These masks become habits, and those habits eventually become identities. You start believing that the mask is who you are. But deep inside, beyond all the layers of performance, there is someone waiting to be seen. The real you. The journey within is not a physical path. It's a descent into the truth of your own being. It's not about becoming something new. It's about remembering what you've always been. Beneath the noise of opinions, expectations, and roles lies a self that is untouched by fear or comparison. But to find that self, you must be willing to remove the masks, one by one, until nothing remains but honesty. The world teaches you how to perform, not how to be. You're told how to look, how to speak, how to succeed. You're taught to chase approval as if it were oxygen. You build your image carefully, on social media, at work, in relationships, hoping that if you perfect the mask, it will make you feel whole. But perfection doesn't bring peace, it brings exhaustion. Because no matter how flawless the mask, the soul beneath it still longs to breathe. The journey within begins when you finally get tired of pretending. When you realize that external validation cannot fill the silence inside you. When you start to question, Who am I when no one is watching? Who am I beneath what the world expects of me? That questioning marks the beginning of awakening. It's uncomfortable, even painful, because it means confronting the emptiness left behind by years of self-denial. But that pain is sacred. It's the birth pain of truth. As you travel inward, you begin to notice how much of your life has been shaped by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. Fear builds walls within you, separating you from your own essence. Every mask you wear is a form of protection, but it also becomes a prison. It keeps you safe, but it also keeps you small. The more you cling to the image you show the world, the further you drift from your authentic self. Real freedom begins when you stop running from your truth. When you sit quietly with yourself and listen, really listen, without trying to fix, justify, or improve. Beneath the noise of thought, there's a stillness that speaks. That stillness is your true self, the observer behind every emotion, the awareness beneath every experience. It's not something you can invent or achieve. It's something you can only uncover. But self-discovery is not an easy process. It requires unlearning everything you thought you knew about who you are. You'll face contradictions, confusion, and resistance. You'll encounter the parts of yourself you've long ignored. The insecurities, the anger, the desires you were taught to suppress. These are not your enemies, they are fragments of your wholeness. Each one carries a truth you've been afraid to accept. The journey within is not about erasing your imperfections, it's about integrating them. As you go deeper, you begin to see how much of your suffering comes from identification. The belief that you are your thoughts, emotions, or achievements. You say, I am sad, I am a failure, I am successful, as if those labels define your existence. But you are not any of those things. You are the awareness in which they appear and disappear. Just as clouds move across the sky, emotions and roles move across your consciousness, but the sky remains unchanged. That sky is your true self. The masks you wear are temporary. You are not your job, your possessions, or even your name. Those are experiences of the self, not the essence of it. The real you cannot be measured by success or diminished by failure. It doesn't need recognition, because it already is whole. When you realize this, you begin to live from a place of truth instead of fear. You no longer chase worth, you embody it. You no longer perform for approval, you move from authenticity. The journey within also reveals that loneliness is not the absence of others, but the absence of connection with yourself. When you live behind masks, even love feels hollow, because it's directed toward an illusion, not your reality. Only when you remove the mask can you experience real connection with others, with life, and with yourself. True intimacy begins when you allow yourself to be seen as you are, not as you pretend to be. Silence becomes your greatest teacher on this path. In silence, the outer world fades, and the inner voice grows clearer. You begin to hear your intuition, that quiet knowing that's always been there, buried under noise. Intuition doesn't shout, it whispers. It guides you toward what aligns with your soul. The more you listen, the more your life begins to align with your true nature instead of your conditioning. And slowly, something beautiful happens. The masks start to fall away, not because you force them to, but because you no longer need them. You no longer seek to impress, because authenticity becomes your strength. You no longer fear judgment, because truth becomes your peace. You stop pretending to be confident and begin to feel confident, not because of what you show the world, but because you've made peace with who you are beneath it. The journey within does not end in perfection. It leads to presence. It's not about escaping the world, but engaging with it from a deeper awareness. You start to see that every experience, joy, pain, love, loss, is an opportunity to know yourself more completely. Life itself becomes your mirror, constantly reflecting back to you the parts of yourself you have yet to embrace. And in that realization, you begin to understand that the masks were never the problem. They were part of the process. Each one led you closer to the moment when you would finally have the courage to remove them and meet the person who's been there all along, waiting patiently beneath the layers of expectation, identity, and illusion. The goal is not to be flawless, but to be real. To embrace your light and your darkness equally. Human beings spend much of their lives chasing an illusion, the illusion of perfection. From an early age, you're taught that being good, being successful, being admired, or being right will make you complete. You learn to polish your image, hide your flaws, and strive endlessly to fit into some invisible standard of what life is supposed to look like. Perfection becomes the silent master that dictates your choices, your emotions, and even your sense of worth. You begin to believe that if you could just remove every imperfection, silence every weakness, and correct every flaw, you would finally feel at peace. But perfection is not peace. It's pressure. It's the slow suffocation of the soul beneath the weight of impossible expectations. Wholeness is something entirely different. Wholeness does not demand that you erase your flaws. It invites you to understand them. It doesn't ask you to deny your darkness. It asks you to integrate it. To be whole is to be real. To stand in your truth without pretending to be more or less than you are. It's the courage to look at every part of yourself and say, "You belong here too." That acceptance is where freedom begins. The pursuit of perfection divides you against yourself. It creates an internal war between who you are and who you think you should be. You become your own critic, your own judge, your own jailer. You silence your emotions because they don't fit your ideal image. You hide your pain because vulnerability feels like weakness. You force yourself into smiles when your soul is tired. But the more you deny your imperfection, the more distant you become from your authenticity. You begin to perform life instead of living it. Perfection is a mask, wholeness is a mirror. The mask hides your truth so others will approve of you, but the mirror reflects your truth so that you can finally see yourself. To be whole, you must be willing to look honestly into that mirror, to see both the light and the shadow, the strength and the fragility, the love and the fear. Every human carries both within them. Light without darkness is not light at all, it's illusion. Darkness without light is not destruction. It's the soil from which wisdom grows. When you embrace your darkness, you do not become broken. You become complete. The parts of yourself you've labeled as bad or undesirable are not there to shame you, they are there to teach you. Your anger shows you where your boundaries have been crossed. Your jealousy reveals your unspoken desires. Your sadness exposes the depth of your capacity to feel. Your fear points toward the places where you have yet to trust life. Each emotion, even the uncomfortable ones, carries truth. To reject them is to reject your own guidance system. Wholeness is the art of holding contradiction. It means accepting that you can be both strong and uncertain, brave and afraid, loving and angry, healing and hurting. You can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. There is no contradiction in that. It is the very essence of being human. You were never meant to be one-dimensional. You were meant to be vast, to hold complexity, to live in the tension between opposites without losing yourself to either side. Perfection tells you that you must fix yourself before you can be worthy of love. Wholeness tells you that you were worthy from the very beginning, even in your brokenness. You do not need to earn your right to exist. You do not need to hide your pain to be accepted. You simply need to allow yourself to be. That permission, To be messy, emotional, evolving, is the foundation of authenticity. The pursuit of perfection often comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of not being enough, fear of being seen as flawed. But the irony is that in trying to avoid rejection, you end up rejecting yourself. You abandon your own truth in exchange for the illusion of acceptance, and that illusion never satisfies because it's conditional. People may love your mask, but only you can love your truth. Wholeness begins the moment you stop seeking to impress and start seeking to understand. To live in wholeness is to stop dividing your soul into categories of good and bad. It is to look at every experience and see value in it. Not just the victories, but also the wounds. Pain carves depth into the heart, struggle builds compassion. Without shadow, you would never recognize light. Without loss, you would never understand gratitude. The moments that break you are often the same moments that reveal your strength. When you accept all parts of yourself, you stop living in fragments. You stop being controlled by the parts you've denied. The emotions you suppress do not disappear. They manifest in your behavior, your relationships, your fears. But when you face them, when you name them and allow them to exist, they lose their power to sabotage you. Integration replaces repression. You begin to live from a place of balance instead of conflict. Wholeness does not mean passivity, it means harmony. It's not about surrendering to chaos, but about understanding the forces that live within you and learning to navigate them with awareness. The light within you inspires action. The darkness within you gives depth to that action. When the two work together, you become grounded, authentic, and strong. There's a quiet power that emerges from a person who has stopped pretending to be perfect. They walk differently, not with arrogance, but with ease. They don't need to prove themselves, because they are no longer at war with who they are. They no longer seek to appear flawless, because they understand that beauty lies in truth, not polish. They forgive themselves easily, and they extend that forgiveness to others, because they know that everyone is fighting the same invisible battle between light and shadow. Wholeness doesn't ask you to erase your past. It asks you to honor it, to recognize how every mistake, every heartbreak, every regret has shaped you. The scars on your soul are not signs of failure. They are the proof of survival. They show where the light has entered and where you have grown. Perfection would have erased those marks, but wholeness cherishes them. When you live in wholeness, you no longer strive to meet impossible standards. You stop chasing an ideal self and start nurturing your real self. You stop judging your emotions as right or wrong, and begin to see them as waves passing through the ocean of your being. You become more compassionate, more understanding, more grounded. You begin to realize that the goal was never to rise above your humanity. It was to embrace it completely. Life hands you raw materials, your choices shape the masterpiece. Every human being enters life as a collection of raw materials, emotions, instincts, potential, and 1,000 unshaped fragments of possibility. You don't arrive complete, you arrive capable. The world then begins its work molding, teaching, influencing, and often wounding you. Family, culture, success, failure, and love, they all leave their marks. Some build you up, others break you apart. But the truth remains that these forces, however powerful, are not the final architects of your destiny. You are. What you do with what life gives you, how you interpret, shape, and respond to it, determines the masterpiece your soul becomes. The mistake many make is believing that circumstances define them. They believe that being born into chaos, rejection, or struggle means they are doomed to live under its shadow. But the raw materials of life are neutral until you give them meaning. Stone can build a prison or a cathedral. The difference lies in the architect. The same pain that hardens one person into bitterness can transform another into wisdom. The same rejection that crushes one spirit can ignite another's purpose. What separates the two is not luck or fate. It is the quiet, conscious choice to build rather than break. Being the architect of your soul means understanding that your life is a work in progress, a construction site of experiences. Every joy adds a color, every loss carves a shape, every challenge lays a foundation. Yet, it's not the material itself that defines the beauty of your design, it's how you choose to assemble it. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is design. You cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose what it means and what you will build from it. That is the sacred freedom that defines your existence. To build your inner architecture requires awareness. Without awareness, you build unconsciously, stacking walls of fear, resentment, or guilt without realizing it. You begin to live inside emotional structures you didn't choose, beliefs inherited from others, habits shaped by survival, identities formed by approval. The first step to becoming your own architect is to pause and see what you've built so far. What are the walls you've created to feel safe? What are the ceilings you've placed on your potential? What parts of your design no longer serve you? True construction begins in the moment of awareness, when you decide to tear down what was built out of fear and rebuild from truth. It takes courage to look at your inner architecture and admit that parts of it are crumbling. Maybe you've built your foundation on other people's expectations. Maybe you've decorated your inner world with illusions to impress others. Maybe your rooms are filled with memories you've never cleaned out. Regrets, shame, unhealed wounds. The task of the soul's architect is not to demolish yourself, but to restore yourself with consciousness and care. Every great architect begins with a blueprint, a vision. What kind of life do you want to create within yourself? What qualities do you wish to embody? Strength, compassion, clarity, peace. Those values become your pillars when storms come, and they always do. Your pillars will determine whether you collapse or endure. A person built on external validation will crumble when approval disappears. But one built on self-understanding stands firm, even in solitude. You build your soul every day through the small, unseen choices. The moments when you choose patience over anger, courage over fear, growth over comfort. Each decision is a brick. Over time, those bricks form the structure of who you are becoming. If you act from resentment, you build walls. If you act from compassion, you build bridges. Your inner architecture is not built in grand gestures, but in the daily, consistent alignment of action and awareness. Painful experiences are often the hardest materials to work with, yet they hold the most strength. Think of how stone is formed under pressure, or how glass is shaped by fire. Your suffering is not meaningless, it is a forge. It gives you density, character, and resilience. The architect of the soul knows how to use that fire without being consumed by it. They take heartbreak and transform it into empathy. They take failure and turn it into wisdom. They use loss as a reminder of what truly matters. To build something enduring within yourself, you must learn to see meaning in the materials others throw away. But architecture is not only about structure, it's about design. It's about beauty, harmony, proportion. Your soul's beauty doesn't lie in perfection, but in authenticity. A home that has been lived in, with scratches, repairs, and layers of history, has warmth. So does a soul that has faced its own shadows. The cracks in your walls don't ruin you, they allow light to enter. When you accept your flaws as part of your design, you begin to radiate a rare kind of peace. The peace that comes from no longer needing to hide. To be the architect of your soul, you must also be the builder, not just the dreamer. Vision without action creates castles in the air. Every insight you gain must translate into practice. If you want peace, practice silence. If you want strength, practice perseverance. If you want love, practice understanding. Architecture happens through repetition, brick by brick, moment by moment. It's not instant. It's a lifelong craft. At times, you will feel lost in your own design. You'll question whether the foundation you're building will hold. You'll look at the scaffolding of your efforts and see chaos instead of beauty. That's natural. Every great structure looks incomplete while it's being built. The key is to keep shaping, refining, adjusting. The architect never abandons the project halfway. They trust the process even when it's messy. Your soul deserves that patience. And while you shape your own inner world, you also influence the worlds of others. The architecture of your being becomes a space where others can find shelter. Your presence becomes a place where people feel seen, understood, and accepted. When your soul is built on truth, you become a living sanctuary, a reflection of what's possible when someone chooses to design their life consciously, rather than inherit it unconsciously. Life hands you its raw materials every day. Love and loss, success and struggle, hope and despair. You cannot always choose what arrives, but you can always choose what to build from it. You are not at the mercy of circumstance. You are the craftsman of meaning. The blueprint is within you, the tools are your choices, and the masterpiece is your becoming.